So, hello everyone. Welcome to Courage, Dear Heart. This is Charli Wall, and for today's episode, I'm joined by the very beautiful Sally. Hello, Sally.
Hello, Charlie.
How are you feeling?
Fine. Looking forward to talking with you.
Good. It's lovely to have you, and I'm really honored that you agreed to be a guest on the podcast because I think it's so important when we're sharing the sort of message of how powerful this work can be that I don't just have my voice riffing on about how powerful it's been for me. It's always wonderful that other people come on and share their experience. So I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Before we get into it though, Sally, obviously my podcast is called Courage, Dear Heart, and I'd love to know for you what the word courage means for you.
I think in the context of the work that we've done, it was taking a big step really into the absolute unknown. So what springs to mind to me is the word trust.
Yeah.
Because if I just share a little bit about my journey, I have a chronic neurological disorder which affects my mobility. I'm in constant pain, and walking is it's a huge struggle. And prior to us working together, I'd done a lot of work around my thoughts and emotions that had come across just before we started working together, the polyvagal theory. And you'd posted on, so I've listened to a lot of your podcasts and followed you for quite some time. You put something on your Facebook page about the vagus nerve and the nervous system and polyvagal theory. And that sort of got me sort of thinking, because I was really struggling last winter with extreme cold, real icy coldness in my foot where the original injury started, but just cold, just super coldness all the time. And that had happened previous winters, but I think it was absolutely at its worst. And I felt incredibly low with it. And that this chronic disorder that I'd got was getting worse and worse. So there was obviously lots of thinking about that and lots of fear. And then I took what I thought was quite a brave step from me to say, oh, could we talk about this, Charlie? And we did a session, and that led to us doing some sessions. So I didn't really know what I was signing up to. So it was that absolute step into the unknown.
Yeah, which takes huge courage, doesn't it? It really
Yeah,
does take courage.
yeah.
The first thing you actually did, Sally, was so in my free Facebook group, I offer like one-to-one sessions with the catch of it has to go live in my you have to be coached like for live in my Facebook group. And that was the first thing you did. And you sort of found me through the Three Principles community, haven't you?
That's right. Yeah.
So at that point, you had that session, you had that free session with me. Can you remember anything about that session? What came up for you?
Just loads, because you asked me some questions, and I could feel myself not wanting to go there, because there was a lot of, I think, emotions of loss. That was to do with the sudden death of my brother, many years ago, I should say. But I think how in my head I was with a load of stuff, and how tight everything felt. And yeah, I just think there was so much emotion all over the place. Yeah, I'd been talking about this thing, which it's to do with my disability and being in pain for a long time, a decade really, and nearly a decade, and yet there was still so much emotion, which felt quite stuck, very stuck. So I'm not sure if I would have summarized that at the time we had the session, but that's me looking back on this picture I have of me and the sense of me when we first talked.
Yeah, I think that's a very good summary. And it's interesting that you said there, like you asked me some questions, but you felt like this resistance to answering them. So
Yeah.
then we embarked on working together in the capacity of sort of paid, work together. Given that you were able to feel that resistance in your body, what did it take for you to then sort of sign up and go into that experience of working with me?
It was very monumental. It was just massive. It was hugely difficult for me. Not because of our work. There was a growing trust. I think that might have been a much bigger issue for me than I'd absolutely realised, because some of the stuff that we talked about, I thought I talked about and dealt with and resolved, and I hadn't at all. So it was a really painful work, but really important work, because I think more than anything, I realised that I'd been literally carrying huge feelings of unsafety, just not feeling safe, that reached way back into my childhood, and I just carried on. I was still massively carrying them. But what I really hadn't seen was how much that was in my body. So the work, really started to build that awareness, and that some of the stuff I was obviously really running away from, so terrified of, probably wasn't as big as I thought it was, but I was in a constant state of blocking and not looking at and running away from, and just being in a chronic state of fear, really. So it was very difficult, because I think I was so low at the time, but I couldn't understand why. I was so unconnected. And I think that was one of the challenges for me of everything that's happened to me, is I just wasn't able to make any sense of it at all until I started to do the work with you around the nervous system, really. And that was when things have lit up for me, in a sense of having a much better understanding and awareness of it. But I make no mistake, it was really hard. But that was to do with me. It wasn't, it was just to do with me. Just absolutely, you can see me doing it. Don't want to go there, don't want to look at it.
Yeah. So again, that takes courage to move past that
Massive.
resistance and that ego to jump into something that is or you have felt in your system is terrifying. And that feeling of feeling unsafe, to then sort of sign up and work with someone one-to-one is again takes courage, because if you haven't ever known true safety and trust in yourself, to find that in another, there's always going to be like a, "Oh, no." So you signed up, we started the work. Can you tell the listeners about that process for you?
It was a slow process of unfolding, I'd say, is my summary of it, of just beginning to look at where some of my stuck and fear was, because it was all about fear, really. And yeah, very gentle unpicking and a huge development of trust with yourself. Yeah, just beginning to see things in a different way from how I had seen them.
And
And it
you were
was all,
doing, go on, sorry.
yeah, and it was all at a difficult time where there was lots of stuff going on in my family. So it all sort of started, some stuff that had been buried and hidden for years suddenly seemed to start happening at the time that we were talking to each other. And I couldn't believe that. It was incredible.
It seems to happen whenever I talk to someone or they sign up with me and they begin that process of the unfolding that you speak so beautifully to. It's almost like the universe goes, all right,
I know.
just throw all this stuff at you, and it's like, ah.
Just
Oh,
closing my door, sorry.
that's all right. That's all right. Well,
God let herself out.
one of the things that you were brilliant at, Sally, was doing the work outside of the calls. And so I was, talking to you about doing something called trauma release. And you did it every day. I'm not sure if you still do it. Yeah. So you did this nervous system work and you did it every day and you committed to it. You invested in yourself. You invested in the time to do it, even when you were like, it's not going to work for me. That was the little fucker in the back. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. What happened as you committed to yourself in this practice?
I think that the tray started releasing some of the stuff that was just stuck. And also it helped to give me some different tools to work with the body, because I hadn't been working with the body at all, and to try and listen in and understand more. Because when I first started doing the tray, I mean, it was an eye opener, because the amount of shaking was huge. Really, it was really, quite violent, almost, the degree of shaking. So that, in a sense, was like, so what has the body been holding on to? I still do it now, but I combine it with the essential oils that we talked about, and that's been a real game changer for me, because smell has always been very important to me, and the whole disorder is quite sensory, so it's not one sense that is disrupted. There's a whole number. Well, it's affected all the different sensory parts of me, and doing the tray, but then combining it with essential oils, massage all over the body, but particularly my poor left foot, has really softened and made that much more of a feminine kind of, if that's a good way of putting it, practice, because the tray was so literally the legs are doing this, to combine it with the sensory touch that's made a real difference to me. It's softened it, and it is a bit more about it's very much about the reclaiming of the nervous system. And I've got one on now. I've got a candle on now, and it's just I've realised that my home environment wasn't very soft, and I'm a very sensitive, soft person, and well, it's helped me to link with that and recognize that for myself. And I've been doing some other changes to a room that I use a lot. I've got some more paintings up and just softening and making things a little bit more in tune with me and who I am.
Yeah, in devotion to you. I love that. I love that. I love that you do that. I love that you trusted yourself in these processes of exploring all of the ways of, like, nervous system hygiene, for want of a better word, of taking care of yourself in a body that hadn't been listened to and was screaming louder and louder and louder. So obviously it all happened at the right time for you. What's been like, how's your life now in comparison to how it was before?
If I was to answer from a point of view of pain and mobility, it would be the same, really. But I feel more in tune with me and my needs, and more able to articulate those and put some healthier boundaries around for me. I also have a much better understanding of now of when my body is giving me signs that it's feeling unsafe. And I can choose to not to go down those old patterns, because I certainly have. I've had a lot going on with my dad this year. And quite coincidentally, at times where it's been really rough, and I've had quite a lot of memories from the past. The body's actually started just doing the twitching, the tray itself, in the middle of kind of difficult conversations with my dad, and it's all, so it's there's a much more just being a bit more in tune with my body. I think I've got a very long way to go, because it does need to be gentle, because it's so sensitive, my system. And when I feel like it, but I know I can make that choice now. I wasn't, I was just so stuck. And it does feel like a lot of things have thawed. If we keep that icy theme, in the sense that I've done some things for myself. I've committed to listening to myself about what I want to do and following those through. So I think there's been a huge amount of change. I think there's been a lot of opening up, a lot of things softening, a lot of things unfolding. I've continued to commit myself. I've read lots, and one of the books that you talked about in the group, Call of the Wild by Kimberly Johnson. I mean, I haven't even gone beyond chapter 5, but my goodness, there were some revelations in there, which is, again, being about the body.
Yeah.
Although on the surface things haven't changed in terms of pain, where I feel is different. I don't know if that's coming across.
Yeah. Your relationship to it's different. Your relationship to your experience is different. Your relationship to yourself is different.
Yeah.
I love what you said there, because, when we are not attuned to our body, and we're disconnected from that, and we're in our head as a feminine essence woman, when the shaking is natural. right? I mean, that's why Tray was created, because it's a way to encourage the natural movement through of that stress response.
Yeah.
So you've been doing it, and then I just to, as a sidebar, sorry to hear about your dad. I didn't know that. But the fact that in these difficult conversations, there's an allowance of that natural system to play out without fear, without freeze. And you spent so much of your life in freeze, haven't you? And your foot was frozen. So yeah, the icy theme that you refer to, like for you, it was like the language that you used, or the experience and the language of your body was trying to communicate with you, like we're in freeze. But unless you have a language around it, and an attunement to that, and an interoceptive awareness, which I think you now have, what you then said is like, I have a choice. And that choice gives you space, and that gives you power to make a decision in the moment. And it's not 100% of the time, like, I'll hold my hands up and say, yeah, it's not 100% of the time, but that opening to meet your own needs and attune to your own needs, which most of us didn't get for whatever reason when we were younger. And there's no blame here. It's just an understanding of something that's innate in that survival response. There's wisdom in it. It's just we get to be adults and we don't understand it. So we slag ourselves off and beat ourselves up and call ourselves all the names under the sun, and we become quite hopeless. So
yeah, that was definitely me. I definitely, when we started working together, felt totally hopeless. Yeah, definitely. And I don't now. So,
well, I also
although,
think, I know that you felt that, but you still had the courage to explore something that
mm,
you felt was intuitively calling you
mm,
forwards,
mm,
even in that hopeless state. There
yeah,
was still a
yeah,
spark of
yeah,
something.
yeah. I think because I'd done a bit of work around the polyvagal theory before we talked, it there was something in me saying there's something to do with this frozen icy feeling, but I don't get it. But there's something here that I think I need to want to. That was the point I got to look at, and that was quite a long journey
Yeah.
of there's something going on here. I don't understand what it is. This kind of is making sense to me. That why is my foot so cold? There's something going on, and there was something in that Facebook post you put that made me think, all right, well, I think Charli will know. And that's what led us to work together. And that's what's been a major turning point for me, really. In fact, I don't think I'm even doing justice to it, because I don't think it was a turning point. It has been huge for me. I can't quite put it into words, how it shifted things for me, which it undoubtedly has.
Well, you're still in the circle, so you're still in my
Mm,
sort of more intimate field,
mm,
and we do a lot of feminine
yeah.
um understanding the sort of truth of a feminine
Mm,
essence being, like understanding the truth
mm.
of that. Have you found that that's been helpful at
Oh
all
gosh, yeah.
alongside the
Mm,
work already?
hugely, hugely. I mean, the thing about the overgiving of the feminine could relate to that. Um, well, also, yeah, I do. I don't necessarily listen to them at the time that you do them, but well, I know there was one also that was hugely powerful. It was about the shadow. Um, yeah, I listened to a lot of your meditations, and I'm looking forward to your one about the feminine pain body. So you see, I am in it. Yeah. So absolutely, I, yeah, definitely do listen. And as you can tell from me talking about the book, follow stuff up. I think,
Yeah,
okay.
you're brilliant at that. Like
Mm,
I want to reiterate that to you. I know I said that off, when we weren't recording, but
mm,
your commitment to yourself, to this work, to doing the work outside of
mm,
our kind of scheduled calls was so important. It was so important.
mm,
And it's that commitment to self which has things change,
mm,
to reading up, to following up, to
mm,
doing the work, to
mm,
asking the questions, to understanding, your body, to the movement with Trey, to the essential oils,
mm,
to, the lymphatic drainage we did, the face
absolutely.
care and
Mm,
all of the things. You did that. You did
mm,
that. And that is why you've had this unfolding.
mm, mm,
Because once you tell the universe or whatever form you want to put around that, yeah, I'm serious, things start to unravel
mm,
because they're ready to be. And women spiral up against things over and over and over again, creating the same experiences until they're ready to learn them. It might have different characters,
mm,
but we will keep spiraling up, and when we're ready to do it, it can feel a bit
mm,
like
mm,
a difficult
mm,
sort of fractious moment, but loving all of you,
mm,
all of the parts of you, even the pain,
mm,
is life-changing.
mm, mm. I think the other thing I wanted to say was that I think it's given me choices, because now when I think, well, and I can listen to myself and trust that, I think, well, today I feel like I want to do a tray. Today I want to put the candle on. Today I'm going to do meditation. Today I'm going to listen to one of your transmissions, or I'm going to read that, or I'm not going to read it, or I'm going to have a break from it. So, and those are the decisions that I'm making, guided by me. Um, I've even said to myself recently, which is about me being kind to myself, is, so symptoms have been very high recently. Actually, I've needed a bit of help from medication, and that's okay. It wasn't okay with me before, because I think, no, you've got to, so, and that kind of hardness that I had about myself,
Mm.
and the hard expectations have shifted again. So I feel more able to ask for different types of help, more able to absolutely, just be more in tune with me, really, and what
Yeah.
I need.
And asking for what you need, asking for help can feel very vulnerable.
Mm,
Um, so, I
mm,
think that's pretty big. I
mm,
think that's pretty amazing.
mm,
It is. It's so interesting you use the words like I was so hard on myself.
mm, mm. Well, I was. Do you know, one of the things I've done this year, so again, it goes back to, this is big stuff, is I've reduced my hours at work. I was working 4 days a week. A lot of people are saying, you're doing that much work with the type of work that I do, with what you're dealing with. I sort of, did it. But gradually, as I got closer to quite a big birthday, I thought, yeah, I'm going to. So I just put in a request, and work were very supportive, and I just reduced to 3 days a week, which is much better, much more space for me, much softer for me. So that came from listening to me. And if I need to, go down that line even further, then I will do, because it's about, listening into my needs and following through with those. So that's a big thing that's happened this year. I haven't told you that. Hmm?
Well, I knew you'd had a big birthday,
Mm,
but I didn't know that
mm,
quite
mm,
fabulous attunement to self,
mm,
listening to self, not listening to the shitty committee as to why you
mm,
shouldn't do X, Y,
mm,
Z. And then, of course, more space opens up, more
mm,
space, more time, honoring of your yin, honoring of your femininity.
mm.
Uh, just incredible, Sally. Honestly, just incredible. Um, is there anything you would say to anyone who was like sitting on the fence about working with me or coming into the circle,
Mm.
for example?
Oh, I'm going to get emotional now. um, what I would say is that you got me, and more than I even realised. So I've always felt very safe with you, and I've continued to reach out to you when I wanted to, when I felt I needed to, or there was something to say. Um, I think I did share with you that when I was reading the Kimberly Johnson book, sorry, and I did some work based on that, which was incredibly powerful, and it really helped me to understand how my body was just in a constant state of bracing. When I was doing that work, you actually came to mind and were there with me whilst I was doing it. So that's I can't say enough how powerful the work was and how you really were there and did really create a safe space for me to be able to do to really look at some very big issues. So I think that emotion that I'm sharing now sort of is my way of reflecting how important that was and how grateful I am, and how I've made you cry as well. I didn't make you cry.
No, it's for me, part of the unfurling in my own experience of life has been to receive.
Mm.
And I really felt you there and received it. And of course, it's an honor, it's been an honor. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
So I'm going to say thank you again, and I'm going to close this podcast down. And it's a shame we can't live stream on Facebook anymore, but I will upload it to the free Facebook group, and then it will go on the podcast and on YouTube. But for now, Sally, I genuinely think you are very special, and I'm incredibly proud and privileged that you chose to walk this last year or so with me by your side, and that you opened to seeing something more true about yourself. So thank you.
Thank you too, John.
So loud.